the switch. Look out, because Henry breaks it up. He's got Duncan with him, didn't want to use him. Clark's a running machine. Look at Clark get on his bike. Has a bounce, gives it to the Hawk. Henry's run on. It bounces for him. Clark now. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I think it's a barrel brownie. You don't see it very often in modern footy. Duncan to really light up Cadinia Park. He's onto it. Has it got the legs? I reckon it has.
Oh, so close yet again, but dropping out in the third round of the finals for about the last 10 out of 12 years or something stupid were the Geelong Football Club for 2021, getting bounced out, as I said, in the prelim very convincingly, Liam.
Yeah, it was a very solid season, to say the least. Obviously, the star players that they got this year, Isaac Smith, he stepped up good, but as he said yet again, they just can't get over that preliminary final hurdle, and just get over that finals hurdle. In the end, they always get there, they always make finals, they're always that greatest home and away team, and they never get over, good finals wins, and they never get into the grand final. Sort of in a Brisbane manner, they just simply can't do that last leg. And as you said, the last 10 out of the 12 years, they've made the preliminary final and bounced out. So another standard season from Geelong, and the preliminary final loss was a howler, to say the least.
Yeah, sure was. Now we'll get into their best win for season 2021.
Mine comes back all the way in round 8, the grand final rematch. It was against the Tigers on a Friday night. They actually trailed by 3 goals at quarter time and then trailed by 9 at halftime. But then in the third quarter, they kicked the 8 goals to just 1 and blew out the game by 63 points in the end. And for me, they had got it because just that second half performance, they kicked 13 goals to 2 after halftime and absolutely just obliterated the Tigers. And everyone thought Geelong and they were actual threat. And yeah, Cam Guthrie had another best on ground with 36 touches, and just a great all-round performance from the whole team. Cameron kicked 6, Rowan kicked 5, Hawkins kicked 4. So their forwards were motoring and just derailed the Tiger train early on in the season.
Very good. I had to go with 2 weeks before that, back in round 6, at the Cattery against the West Coast Eagles. The Cats came out 97-point victors. Their second term was probably the second best quarter of football that any team played this year, behind Melbourne's third quarter in the granny. They kicked 10 goals to 1 single point in the second, with Mitch Duncan's huge torp after half siren to cap it off as well. So that had to slide in as my best win.
Very good. We'll now move on to the worst loss of the season. I kind of think this one was self-explanatory in a way.
Yeah, we touched on it in the intro.
Yeah,
it's got to be the prelim. 83 points in neutral territory, which it would have been in Melbourne regardless. It should have been possibly another game of the year, which they already played in a few weeks earlier, just before finals. Nothing more to say other than they were better off going home after after beating GWS in the semi. Better off not turning up that night, because that was appalling. They kicked the first, and then Melbourne kicked 2 in about 2 minutes, and it was game over from that point.
Yeah. It's safe to say I agree with you. It's hard to go past an 83-point smashing in the preliminary final. They might as well not even turned up on the night, to be honest. They played like it. They came in, played 5 minutes, and then just dipped. So yeah, the preliminary final loss has to be the worst defeat that they had this year.
Very good. Now on to your best and fairest for the Geelong Footy Club. I believe it is called the Cargie Greaves Award. Who would have finished in your top 3?
Coming in at third, I had the big key forward himself, Tom Hawkins. Yeah, another solid season. Kicked the 2.5 goals per game, and yeah, he just did his bit every week. One of the best forwards in the competition, 62 goals yet again, and yeah, easily one of the best forwards in the comp. Coming in at number 2, Tom Stewart, probably the bloke who would have won it for me had he not missed the last few weeks, but he's going to be great in the few years to come. And in at number 1, I had Cam Guthrie. An absolutely outstanding season, 29 touches a game, 4 tackles, 5 clearances. He was just elite. He probably, I think he's late 20s or early 20s, I'm not too sure. 29, so he's only got a few years left, but he just does everything. He gets the ball, uses it effectively, and he's just been an elite player for Geelong. And the last few years, especially, he has definitely come out and going to be a good replacement for Dan Stewart and Selwood for a couple of years before he enters the twilight of his career.
Very good. Now, my number 3 went to Tom Hawkins as well. As you said, the 62 goals, the 2.5 a game, 5 marks. Also, as you said, one of the best key forwards. However, personally, I do expect him to decline in the coming years over the next probably 2, and then he might be it, to be honest.
Yeah.
He'll still be good, we know, but not as good as he was. And number 2, I switched around 2 and 1. So I had Cam Guthrie at 2 with the 29 a game, and I had Tom Stewart at 1 with the 24 a game, 6 rebound 50s and 9 marks to his name.
Very, very good. We'll now move on to the most surprising player. It was kind of hard to pick one, but who did you go with?
I had to chuck in, I wouldn't say a surprise, but Gary Rowan had to go in there. I can't defend the man anymore.
Yeah.
The month hits September and he goes to hibernate in Finland.
Yeah, he just disappears.
Poor performance after poor performance in the month of September. Not the best year overall, probably one of his career best seasons, but he's always sort of just been that role player. He's never been the absolute star. But he had a few good games. I think he had one maybe that he kicked 5 in a game. Obviously, he kicked the goal after the siren to defeat the Dogs off the top of my head at the Cattery. As I said, he had a couple of good games, but otherwise it was a very poor performing season.
I've gone with a big surprise, but I've gone with star Paddy Dangerfield, kind of in the way of Gary Rowan. He gets the ball in finals, but we've said in previous podcasts that he just doesn't use it effectively. In the game against Port, I think he had 20 odd touches, but he only had about 60% efficiency. And he just doesn't seem to show up in the big games as much as he should. We all know how much of a star he is and what he's capable of. But again, he just doesn't show up in finals games. He just gets the ball and he doesn't use it effectively like he normally would. Kind of like the whole Geelong team. Kind of one team does bad and it spreads throughout the whole team like a virus. So he's got to be my most surprising player. And again, in a poor way, as you did with Gary Rowan.
Very good. Now, what do the Geelong Cats need to do next year? Are they still in premiership contention? Yes or no?
I'm not going to say it. I think this is their last year. I'm going to say this is their last year where they could have gone for the flag, but I think they've got one more year to make finals. But again, I don't think they're going to get over that prelim final hurdle. I reckon they'll get bounced out the first or second week if they make the top 4. So it's going to be another struggle, I think, next year. And then years after that, we'll see the likes of Selwood, Dangerfield, Hawkins, Smith, all of them will go. And then Geelong are going to be in the rebuild. So I feel like next year it's their last genuine year to potentially push. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I think they should run it back for one last hurrah. You'd think. What do you think they need to do?
I think the same, and I'll pose a question to you. In the last 10 years, is this the most successful yet disappointing club that we've seen in the last 10 years alone?
Yeah, I could agree with that. They've made the preliminary final. I think you said 10 years. They made finals 10 out of the last 12 years. I think that's the stat. And they always make the preliminary final, but they just never get there. They're one of the greatest teams in the home and away season. But again, the whole team just hibernates in
They've missed the finals once since 2004.
Yeah. How many grand finals have they made in that time? Let's say about 4. So there's never get over that hurdle. 5, yeah. 5 out of what?
7, 8, 9, 11, 20.
Yeah. 5 out of 16. So that's
not a terrible ratio, but when you count up all the prelim finals that they've lost in the same time.
Yeah.
If you told me that, your club would be making 5 of the next 20 grand finals, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that they also made, 17 of the 20 prelims.
Yeah.
And only won 5 of them. That's the part that,
exactly.
Yeah. Predictions for 2022. If you haven't seen our predictions video, go check it out. It has blown up the channel. But where do you think they will finish next year?
I've got them in the top 4. I've squeezed them into the top 4 for one final time before they start their descent down the ladder. So I've got them in at 4th. I think they have the potential to drop out to 5th, between 5th or 8th, like they did in 2018. But I feel like they're good enough to push again for the top 4 next year. They're going in the same list, maybe without 1 or 2 players. But I reckon they can make the top 4 yet again. How about yourself?
I went with the same. I said 4th as well. They're always going to be in and around as long as they have the competitive list that they do. But I think it's all over Red Rover. They're not.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're not a premiership team come 2022. But they could prove us wrong. Wait and see. Your report grade now.
I've gone with a B+. I feel like going into an A would have been too generous, despite the way they bounced out in the preliminary final. But I think another solid season from Geelong, top 4 finish, you'd take that. But again, just the way they bounced out in the prem was very, very disappointing. And Geelong fans had their head in their arms that day. And I feel like a B+ is just about right. What did you go with?
I went 1 step below with a solid B. Purely that prelim loss is probably what put me at the B. If they played at least 1 full quarter, I probably would have gone B+. But a B is what I have to rock with for the Geelong Cats.
Very good.
I think that just about wraps it up, unless you've got any other news to add.
No, that's all from me.
Oh, sweet. Perfect. So thank you all for watching. As we said, go check out our recent prediction video as well as all of our team reviews. There's only 2 left, with Port coming out on Wednesday and Melbourne, the Premiers, coming out on Friday evening. Stay tuned for that, and we'll see you then.
See ya.